Hello, survivors, and welcome to The Wish List from First Aid Spray, the show where we talk about upcoming Resident Evil media and talk about what we do want, what we don't want, and what we expect from it. My name is Sai, and joining me on this episode is the effervescent Stevie V.
Hello.
And now I realise that I've said it like that, I have to say. Also joining me is the wonderful James, aka Moisty O.
Moisty O.
There is branded cereal in there somewhere, James.
Yeah, Moisty O's.
Yeah, new sponsor.
Right, make sure we trademark this before the video goes out.
Yeah. Moisty O's.
Moisty O's.
They're always moist.
I'm just picturing like James doing a proper face, but it's made of maize.
You don't need milk with Moisty O's. They're just
Already moist.
Yeah.
Cereal, but it's damp.
We're cereal serious about damp.
Right. And we're super serious about this totally new show format that we've come up with, as you can tell by that intro. So this is something that we've never done before, but, you know, maybe it's a thing. We'll see how it goes. Quite excited to talk about the upcoming Resident Evil Village DLC, the Winter's expansion, which comes packaged with Resident Evil Village Gold Edition, of course, on the 28th of October. As we record this, we are more than a month away from release. In fact, we know there's a Resident Evil showcase coming up at some point between now and then. So by the time this comes out, it may well be kind of irrelevant. But regardless, we are going to go through the DLC. We're all going to talk about something that we'd like to see from it, something that we definitely wouldn't like to see from it, and kind of a prediction on something that will be in the DLC. And that can be anything from Shadows of Rose, it can be the third-person mode, it can be the Mercenaries. We haven't exchanged notes prior to this, so it's going to be interesting. So I guess let's start with the positives, something that you're looking forward to potentially being in the DLC in some form. Steve, I'm going to start with you. What's something that you'd like to see in the Winter's expansion?
Okay, right. Pie in the sky, totally. Like, we know there's going to be, like, the Castle Dimitrescu and whatnot in there. I kind of want to hope, since this is about the Winters, specifically, you know, Rose and her history, potentially some bits of Evelyn in there. Kind of really hope we see a bit of Dulvey, like a bit of the Dulvey manor house. That's what I want to see. As crazy as it sounds, I know it's out there, but if this is meant to be some kind of big like closure on the thing, going back to where it began would be great.
Interesting.
I really feel like the Baker House is where stuff should really settle down. If there's, I'm going a bit cart before the horse, but I feel like Evelyn's going to be here in some way.
Okay.
I feel like if there has to be a showdown with Evelyn, it's either on a tanker facsimile or a Dulvey facsimile. This is all purely conjecture.
Of course.
But that is my wish. I want some RE7 in my village. How bad is that idea?
No, I mean, I'm on board with that. Like, I think the idea of a face-off with Evelyn would be quite interesting. It's certainly nothing. It's something that I've never considered before. The characters, obviously, they're not something I think, oh yeah, Rose and Evelyn, you know, it's not something that immediately came to mind, but it is quite interesting. And obviously we kind of had touches of that. Something I think we said about Village, what was so great about it when it came out, was that finally we had a Resident Evil game that was a sequel. It's been ages. They're all usually kind of like self-contained stories these days. So when we get those bits in Village that are like, oh yes, remember this from 7, the bit with Jack, and you come across Evan, that was really nice. So yeah, I'm down for more of that kind of stuff for sure.
So it's probably my thought process is the Mega My seat is in some way, shape, or form, but established to still be there in like the little stuff we've seen, right? She's going into it in like a mindscape. So theoretically, if Evelyn was still in Ethan's mindscape, there's nothing stopping Evie from still being in the Mega My seats. And the same with all the other big bads, really. I mean, we could have Lady Dimitrescu there and all the rest of it for fan favourites. Heisenberg, just like, you know, so you can offer people one more deal. Stuff like that. I think closure is the big thing. And then the main villain of the RE7, RE8, really, even if you discount Mother Miranda, really, it's still Evelyn. She's the one who made Ethan the way he is.
All right, sure. And by extension, Rose.
Yeah, Mega My Seat is like such a unique thing in Resident Evil, and a really unique take in I think just worldwide, to be honest, when it comes to like unique monsters. Something that collects memories and stores them. Like it's so. I mean, there are things in fantasy that are like that, right? But I don't think there's anything else I can think of that's kind of like that.
Right, you think of fantasy or maybe like spacefaring science fiction.
Yeah.
It's like more alien than it is something supernatural, which is what makes
The
it cool.
space mind that has all of the unique organisms as one brain,
Right.
like the Zerg or whatever.
This one was under a shack in Romania somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, just underneath the graveyard. Yeah.
Like with that, like I can see it. They can. It's one. What I was going to go into is because it's such a great device because you can do a lot of things with it. Like you've literally got the entire backlog of Resident Evil that you can go through.
That is true, yeah.
I mean, the main crux of it is I just want to see some RE7 in my DLC. Like, I think that if it begins in the village and then descends through the castle, whatever, and then ends there, that's the perfect place to bookend it. End it where it begins.
It'd be a cool It's weird because we're only like 5 years or whatever, 6 years nearly out from 7. It would feel like a cool fan service thing almost in a way to go back there. Already, it would feel nice.
Where's my RE7 remake, Capcom?
It's coming, I can assure you that.
Oh, God.
James, something you'd like to see from this DLC?
Man, mine is very similar to Steve's. Yeah, one of them. I think we did make several.
Right. I mean, it should be said because we haven't shared each other's ideas, we've all made a little bit of a backup. But
so maybe we can like give you snippets of the other things.
Sure.
I like on some other time, but my footnote is a clearer idea on lore. That they have put as a base foundation in RE7 and RE8. Why the Duke knows the merchant and why the Duke is this important character, what the Beneviento house was up to prior, because we know what all the other lords were up to, but we don't know what we don't really know anything about the Beneviento family.
With the babies in the DLC.
I don't want full explanations. We don't need that at all, but we just want some tie-ins. Like this game was a tie-in, to 7, and it had really strong ties also to the original games, and in turn all the other games in Resident Evil. Like it had soft ties to everything, which is why I loved it so much. So yeah, we need more of that. We need more just lore ties. There's so much detail in those two games, as they are, but especially in the environments as well of Village. Like if you're just looking around, you see a lot of detail. They've worked very hard, and I think I said this before, but it would be disingenuous to not focus on the details that they have implemented in the first place and do what they have done in previous series, which is introduce something that is really, really intriguing and interesting, and then not bother with it. Kind of like what I have a suspicion that they're going to do with Chris Redfield and the BSAA HQ thing. But I mean that goes into another thing. But yeah, just a clearer idea on lore, clearer and stronger tie-ins.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Certainly, like I think that there is a concern that, for me at least, that this DLC will be more about gameplay and not about story, and it feels like there is some stuff that we were deliberately not told to come out of Village. Stuff that they knew, that was in their lore Bible, if you like, for Village and the stuff that it introduced, that they held back from, for whatever reason, for potentially like sprinkling elsewhere. Because I felt we came into that podcast with a lot of questions about the story. It was like, oh, okay, there's still some stuff here that wasn't quite explained as thoroughly. So there's absolutely room for that, to build that out.
There's always like, it's always great to have a story where you've got your viewer base asking questions, whether it be like in a book or a TV series or a game. Like asking questions, like is I think is, unless it's the kind of like questions like, that makes no sense,
right.
Stuff like that. But if it's questions about your lore and your story and where it goes from there and what the possibilities are, then I think you've done right. You've done a good thing. And then we were asking so many of those questions, like during our podcast and on Twitter, like a lot of people were as well. That we don't want to know like concrete answers, but I'd love to make another lore video where I can talk about it and speak to other people about what this could mean and potentially linking it up to other games.
Like a bit, give us like a taste, but don't give us the full answer. Don't go like with Lost and like the answer is in fact they're all dead. Or
Right. Yeah.
Lost. Keep the box half open, but so you can see the mystery, but you can't solve the mystery.
Yeah. Because like that's been a big problem with Resident Evil with like previous editions before Resident Evil 7 is that even though they're very quintessentially Resident Evil and there's always like a baseline in terms of story and Umbrella and Wesker or the connections or whatever else, like or Tricell, right? There's always an overarching story that you can follow and is very Resident Evil and the gameplay is very Resident Evil, but they all feel after the first 3, they all feel very standalone.
Yes.
Like that you could, which is why, like for instance, my first proper Resident Evil that I completed was Resident Evil 4, and I had really wild expectations about what all the other Resident Evils were because of that. But they're completely different games. Like you can definitely play them standalone, which is it is a good thing as well. But yeah, just a little ties in nice.
I feel like you're right that it's time to hook it a bit, be a little less standalone.
A big problem I've been seeing recently, and when I say recently, I mean the past 5 years, is people have started to notice the cracks. They start to notice like the lack of characterization. They've started to notice like people who have just been forgotten. They go, where are they now? Where we're like, we're getting to the 9th edition of the series now, and it's like there's these big characters that don't have a conclusion or aren't nearing a conclusion. They're just like kind of brought in.
I mean, Leon, I think Leon, Claire, and Jill are all MIA post MI6 in any shape or form, right? RE6, MI6.
MI6.
Like Leon's obviously in RE6. Then you've got Revelations 2. You've got an email from Jill, and then you've got the entirety of Revelations 2 for Claire. So I mean, there's like mangas and stuff like that, but it's not in game. It's not a playable adventure with them in.
And it doesn't like with Village DLC. I'm not saying like, we want everything in Village DLC. We want I want to know what happened to Jill. But this could be a stepping stone towards the future.
Yes.
What they bring out. Yeah.
And it's the other part that you were saying about just kind of like answering mysteries and sort of growing out the lore of Resident Evil Village. Of course, it's got like a whole bunch of characters who are only really going to appear in that game, like the Lords and stuff like that. They're dead now. So it'd be nice to get a bit more background info on who they were and stuff like that, So, certainly possible.
Heisenberg, he played Wolfenstein once and got really excited.
He really loved it, yeah.
he just loved the whole thing.
The New Order, it's just like it was totally a relaunch of Machine Games. It was fantastic. Also, can we get any powered chests and drill arms, please?
So what's one thing you want from the Village DLC?
It's funny actually because mine kind of plays off that a little bit, especially when I mentioned the Lords there at the end. So in the first trailer for Shadows of Rose, we saw the Duke briefly, and he's wearing like a weird mask or whatever.
Yeah, he's really weird.
I don't obviously know what that means. We are assuming that this DLC takes place inside of the Mega Mycete or whatever Rose is sort of interfacing with it, for lack of a better term. And I would like, obviously, there was a bunch of, like we're talking about stuff that's left hanging in Village. Duke, perfect example. It's literally called out. Ethan's like, what are you? What's going on here? And the Duke's like, not even I can answer that. And it's like, okay, well, either you've bottled it or and we're waiting on that answer. I don't know if we'll get like a big explanation, but I would like a little bit more. Because obviously we know, I think it was the concept art, right, that said we were considering using the Duke as a Lord or having that as part of his lore, but it's not actually in the game. And he's clearly connected to the Mega Mycete in some fashion. And since everything kind of exploded, we can probably assume he's dead. But because he's been interfaced with the Mycete before, Rose is coming across him. I just need some information about who he is. Not necessarily how he became friends with the RE4 merchant. I don't think that's a genuine thing. But
You just met a stranger along the road.
right,
See,
that's fan
it's
service.
it's so funny because that's the only line. That line alone, and the fact the setting of RE Village is the only thing that makes me go, remake 4 is gonna give us a lot of information.
That'd be interesting.
I met this guy called the Duke once. He made me a nice fish and chips. Stranger.
yeah, exactly. No, I think there's going to be some information about who he is, and maybe he is some additional lord or disgraced lord. It could potentially be the big boss fight, I reckon, of the DLC, if there is one. That's what I'd like, anyway, because that kind of fills out Village a bit more.
What do you think his? I mean, we don't know much, but what do you think his motivations would be?
Genuinely, that's the problem, was we don't know enough to even predict that.
Yeah.
But I'd love for it to be like this big twist, and he's truly evil for whatever it is. I don't know why he would set up a shop. Obviously, he has something against Mother Miranda if he's outfitting Ether with all this stuff, right? So there's got to be something there to that. He's opposing the lords there for a reason. So yeah, maybe he was set up for an opportunity and he's been disgraced and cast aside, and it's like, okay, well, I'm going to start handing all these guns to this dude and see what happens.
He's just like, YOLO.
Yeah,
Hey,
and now Miranda's not around, so he's kind of got Rule of the Roost of the Mega Mycete's mind. Maybe, I don't know.
We know that he's a shrewd businessman, not just because of. I mean, he's not really. When you speak to him, he's quite a genuine person.
He seems very genuine,
right? And just jolly, yeah. But when you first go into the castle, there's like this note on the side that talks about like the Duke coming over for to talk about business, basically. You know, and it's like that is very telling. Like, just it's not very much information, but it's like he might just be a shrewd businessman. Maybe he was coming in, and I mean, again, this is just James with his tinfoil hat on, right? But maybe he was coming in and he was maybe planning to buy this place, this land.
It's free real estate.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, he might have been doing that, and in the process, they didn't tell him the full run and short of what's happening, right? And then he gets swallowed by the Mega Mycete when it decides to take over, which is why like he's so angry. Maybe and then we get Nightmare Duke.
Yeah.
The Devil Duke, if it were.
The Devil Duke, yeah.
I've always been of the opinion that it's like some kind of Will of the Mega Mycete thing. I always feel like the Duke being in an old-timey carriage is reflective of the era when it was found.
Yeah.
Like, there's something more than meets the eye in that guy. And I think if Sai's right, it'll be great because it's a way to recontextualize his entire involvement across the entire game, hopefully with enough context to make it so like, all right, so this bit where he gives Ethan the shotgun, he actually is a complete prick.
So
something like that.
It's interesting you say the will of the Mega Mycete, because I don't think the Mega Mycete has a will.
Does it not?
I don't think it does. I think it's literally just a library of memories.
Yeah,
it doesn't
that's
have.
I mean, that's entirely plausible.
Yeah, someone might be able to take advantage of that, though.
Exactly, because I truly, as someone who plays with truly neutral creatures a lot, including myself as a DM, I have to be that way. Like, think people manipulate the neutral creatures all the time because it's very easy to manipulate a creature that has
it's just a database, is what you're thinking.
Yeah.
I would argue, okay, that it could be, but there's a part of me that thinks that you stick enough intelligences and enough memories in it. It may not be a singular person's, it may be an amalgam of them, and it's made this kind of like shape. You know, it's not necessarily just one person's mind has made it, one person's will. I may or may not have watched Ghost in the Shell, Solid State Society, with something like that happens.
It's many minds. I get it.
Yeah. So if enough data is in there, it does its own thing. It's all pure conjecture, which is the point, I guess.
Just give us like a 10-page note that we have to go through. Yeah, we have to go through the game like 3 times.
Give us the Covenant Room again.
just tell us how the Mega Mycete came into being and where it was from. And if you don't want to tell us where it's from, just tell us how old it is. Right? If you tell me how old the Mega Mycete is,
that's quite interesting.
Right? 20 years ago, Spencer had me at wrong script. Um, 80 odd years ago.
Before
Let's
this
go
turns
to-
into like Village Part 2.
Yeah. Let's go to the opposite end of the spectrum then. Let's talk about things that we don't want to see in this DLC. This will be interesting. James, let's start with you. What one thing
Oh,
would you
no.
not like to see in the Winter's expansion?
It's like, so the two things I put down are so similar. I feel one is a cop out because I just spoke about the lore so much. So I'm going to say the second thing,
Okay.
which I think is actually, you know what? I'm just going to say the first thing quickly. No more loose ends.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say. Right.
Good luck.
Right. But please. But yeah, the next thing is please don't make this a freaking dream. Like,
I mean,
I don't
It's
want
a
this
tough
to,
one, isn't it?
yeah.
I don't want this to be a dream of a game. It's the DLC of a record-breaking game, right? That was lauded because of all of its detail and its structure and like how it fit into RE lore as a whole, right? If you make it a dream and she just wakes up, like
As a baby going, yeah! Dada! One hell of a flash forward there, Rose.
Oh God, imagine.
there are some ways it can be done right, right? But if I don't like the dream aspect, it makes me uncomfortable. Like it takes away agency, which I think is the biggest problem with like dream stuff. Like unless it was a dream within reality, like so, like it was the things that she had done during this DLC actually came to pass.
They have an effect.
So yeah, exactly. So like she, while she's going through this dream, the things that we're seeing are horrifying and everything, right? But in actuality, they're not as horrifying. It could be like a nice, well, not really nice, but it could be like a better and a more optimistic way of ending, right? Rather than having Nightmare Duke with his many masks chasing you around with his
Right.
mold, ashy children, whatever they are.
Is it? Do you think it's like the fungus matrix? Like whatever happens to her in the Matrix would happen to her in real life. Like she dies in the Mega Mycete world, she's going to die in the real world, right? Surely that's the rule.
Yeah. There has to be threat there, so yeah.
So there's got to be some kind of serious consequences there. I don't know. I mean, if you're saying like walking around Castle Dimitrescu and blowing it the fuck up in a dream is going to blow up in fucking reality,
it's
Castle's already dust, brother. Like,
it would the reason that I brought this up is because and the way it can be done great and like fantastically is in Resident Evil, and it's in Resident Evil Village, and it's what happens with the Beneviento section. Like it's not really dream state, it's like hallucination.
Yeah.
But like the way that you go through that, like nothing is real that you see like before you, like other than the setting you're in, like the house and the walls and everything. Even that sometimes can be drawn into like question, right? But everything else is it's a fiction that's been created by Cordia, right? So if it was something like that, but on a much bigger scale, because we're dealing with the Mega Mycete here.
I mean, that's horrifying. I love it. Like a Silent Hill-like experience, right? So she's thinking she's seeing one thing, but actually she's walking down like downtown Brixton and she's shooting random people or something.
Exactly.
Like,
it's like
she's seeing something else than what's actually there.
Yeah.
And she's actually somewhere.
Yeah, it's more rooted in reality, because I mean, Resident Evil is as a franchise, that's kind of what their bread and butter is when it comes to that kind of stuff. Like everything at first it seems very paranormal, but then there's always like something that is explaining something. Yeah. So like pseudoscience is super fun to always write about, right? And if we can get that, that's fine. But
I
don't want it.
This DLC is going to start with her like some object is going to be able to make her connect to the Mega Mycete or whatever. She's going to be standing there. We go into the gameplay, we do the DLC, and then we come out and she's standing there. That's what I'm expecting. I don't think she's going to go for a walk around the actual castle as it stands now, or whatever, or anywhere else for that matter. It is all going to be in like this weird fictional other space kind of between the two minds. So that's what I'm expecting. But I agree with you in the sense that it actually has to have an effect on it, at least her as a character. Like, there needs to be an experience, and we talked a lot about like connecting the lore. Obviously, there's issues there because we don't know how much of this is going to be real, as it were.
Right.
So that is the worry, that it is all just going to be able to be written off as this sort of weird fantasy thing.
I think they're gonna lay the groundwork right at the beginning, because we're already seeing like she's met some kind of nerd in a lab who's like, you know. So
I'm totally not going to betray you at the end of the DLC.
There's some kind of, you know, there's some kind of groundwork and like foundation that you can set yourself to, so you know where she is and, you know, and stuff. So I'm very interested to see where that goes. But yeah, I don't want it to be just a really silly dream sequence. Like, that has no consequence.
Yeah,
but I'm afraid it might be.
Yeah, that is a legitimate concern. I've got a legitimate concern for you. I'm going to take the obvious one. The thing that I don't want is Ethan Winters to come back.
Aww.
I won't mind a scene between the characters. I don't want him to be suddenly back to life.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Of course. Obviously, we've had in that epilogue for Village, there was kind of implication that she could talk to him through the Megamycete, maybe, or she could see him or whatever. You know, the way that she goes, I know I'm like my dad, as if she knows him, when of course she doesn't really. She was a newborn. And then we obviously get the weird thing where he shows up and you break the camera off and there he is standing by the car or whatever. So I would like, obviously that's nice for them to, if they resolve that and they get to have like a father and daughter moment before Ethan is finally laid to rest. And ideally what you really would have is Rose is trying to rid herself of these abilities or whatever, but in doing so she has to say goodbye to being able to communicate with her father, which would be a complex character moment for Resident Evil to handle. And we obviously, over the years, we talk about a lot how the characterization has got a lot better, and maybe they can pull that off. It'd be great. I just don't want them to unsacrifice Ethan. You know, she goes into the Megamycete and pulls him out and he's alive again. It's one of those things. It's just like you pull then and then everything unravels, because what was the point of it all? You know, what was the point of the sacrifice if you do that? It's an obvious one, but it needs to be said, I think.
If Ethan's got it in, he has to be back turned. You can't turn him around to see his face, as is the rule.
It's going to be a really wide shot with some mist like across the.
The moment before she loses him forever, she tries to turn him around and there's nothing there, and his face just goes.
Oh, no.
Goodbye, Daddy. I do like the idea that they have to give up everything to then they also have to say goodbye to the dad. That would be like, you know, if I was writing a story.
Yeah, Village makes you cry part 2.
Yeah. This time you kill Ethan.
Oh, God.
I think this DLC is going to make me cry a lot.
It has the potential.
Yeah.
All right. Steve, what is the thing that you don't want to see from Resident Evil Village Gold Edition?
Okay, excluding Mia and Rose, and I guess Ethan. I don't want any more character fates of people we know established and confirmed. I don't want to know if Wesker is back. I don't want to know if Jill is alive. I don't want to know if anybody. Village is ending, basically saying that Chris is going to live until 2030 or whatever the frick, I thought was a real bad move. Because it takes away any threat for him. And I feel like any name drop or wink will ruin it. And I genuinely am worried they're going to try and, because I know a lot of fans have, and I'm one of them, I want to see Jill back as much as everyone else. I feel like we're going to get at the end of the DLC and Valentine, or something like that, some kind of nod that Capcom acknowledges it. And it'll be the worst possible time to do it, because it's in the fucking future. And I don't want that. I want present day. So, no character fates besides the Winters family do I want to see or acknowledge in this. I know that sounds petty, but if they're going to make it focused on them, just keep the lens focused, laser focused on them.
What about
I don't mind establishing new villains. That's fine. He was established in side canon. I'll accept LeBron. That's entirely a different situation entirely, James. You know, what the fuck is this fucking bullshit? So, yeah, I think establishing a new villain or a villain that we're going to see in other games set in the past is fine. Establishing something new. I mean, like, for example, Lost in Nightmares established Alex Wesker, right? That was a DLC, did Wesker. And that became Revelations 2. I mean, there's a way you'd have to wrangle it that this villain obviously is going to survive. But new things, fine. Old things, no. So that's a long way around it. But basically, yeah, I'm an antisocial git. And I don't want to see Chris, Jill, Barry, Ada, Rebecca, any of them. They could stay the frick in the past for long.
So
for the moment.
To defend your point as well, I think when you start doing that, because one thing I predict is going to be tying into that too. But, once you start doing that and Capcom start doing that, it pigeonholes them. They pigeonhole themselves.
Yeah.
Like, and it can really mess up.
I don't want to see old man Chris right now. Like, let's get there in a linear fashion.
Yeah.
I
think you might
get with everybody else.
Chris mentions maybe. But but you're right. It's already kind of been because of the epilogue. It's kind of like I didn't really think about it before, but you're right because now that we know it's set 16 years in the future, because obviously when the epilogue came out, everyone was like, "It's gonna be 6 days for all we know." She might
that would be fine.
Now that we know it's in 2030, whatever.
Yeah, 7.
Yeah. Now we know that Chris is still kicking about.
I just had a terrible thought. What if it starts and Rose just like. She has a letter in her hand, and it's like, I'm writing to you to tell you that Chris Redfield has passed away.
Oh my god!
I mean, that's fine. If he dies in 2038, he's got loads of time. I mean, all the Chris stands are going to be like, well, everyone else is like, oh, cool, it's time for someone else.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Okay, no, I know. Like, we all love Chris. Okay.
Yeah.
He needs to sit down.
Yeah.
You're right as well. To on top of that, feelings about Chris aside, being able to tell this little miniature story, self-contained story, and just have it about the Winters is really good because RE7 and Village both had Chris in. That's great. It worked. It was totally fine. But I agree with you. This should be about the Winters and nobody else.
Like Mia, I would love closure for Mia.
I don't see it. But I'd love it. Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's their family, I feel like Mia didn't get much time with her own daughter in that game at all. Like, she had a cuddle in her with the chopper, and that was it. And, yeah, anyone else, not so much. Maybe you could even cheekily have a Mia and a Mia, and then you have to figure out which one's Miranda, or some other dumb shit. But no one else. Keep it Village characters, Winter's characters. I mean, there's plenty of Resident Evil fans out there who go, it's not real Resident Evil because it's only got the Ethan in it. Have that. Just a game that they can then happily ignore and the rest of us have fun. I don't want to have them bitching every other weekend about I don't like Ethan Winters. Get it, okay? It's only got no head and hands and he blocks everything. It's fine.
How could you not like Ethan Winters now? After everything he's gone through, I don't understand it. Like, right? I got it in Resident Evil 7, but Resident Evil Village...
Man, when he died, a part of me went and got, oh God, man, I'm as tired as him, jeez. But that's beside the point.
Like, that man went through everything that Chris Redfield has gone through in, like, the space of only 4 or 5 years. And everyone's like, I hate him. I love Chris Redfield, though. Great guy.
Simple barometer, okay? Leon, Jill... all the rest of them cannot block a chainsaw. Ethan Winters can. All right? Mold powers aside, the man could probably block the sun. It's fine. Absolute legend.
We've entered the Ethan Winters Stan portion of the episode.
Well, I mean, you can't really have much of a... this is also the first Day Spray episode of Profile for Ethan Winters, featuring RE7 and Village.
You've got much to say, but we've got a lot to say at the same time.
All right, so I'm going to kick off the prediction, a bold prediction for what might be part of Winter's expansion. I find it really interesting that so far we've only talked about Shadows of Rose. My prediction is not about Shadows of Rose. My prediction is about the Mercenaries. I've got two. I've got a miniature one. The miniature one is I think every character is going to have their own theme music, like Resident Evil 4.
Yes.
Split, change up. I mean, it's like a new version of Mercenaries. You can give Chris the classic Pizza Village music everyone knows in 4, and I think all the other characters need their own theme music. But the bulk one is, I think there is actually, and this is bold, I think there might be at least one more character to Mercenaries that we haven't shown.
What, do you mean that they've shown in another mode, sorry?
No. So you can now play mercenary. There's Ethan, Chris, Heisenberg, and Dimitrescu. I think there's maybe another character that they haven't revealed yet. Because what's so great about mercenaries is the unlockables that you get from it. It's not just about I can beat the score. It's like I can get something out of this. And Village Mercenaries had that a little bit. You had the new stages and stuff, but I expect you might unlock the DLC characters as you go. I would love like a super secret unlockable character. Who that is, up for debate. Could be a member of the Hound Wolf squad. That'd be kind of boring, but it's a thing. Mia.
Generic soldier dude with many goggles.
Yeah, that guy. Whatever his name was. Mia would be nice, as part of the Winter's expansion, to give her something to do. And obviously, she has somewhat of her own loadout because she got the fully automatic and RE7 and stuff like that. She's a capable person. You could be Rose. She's the star of this entire DLC package.
Yeah. I think that is one. 100% betting. You beat Rose, the DLC, then she becomes available in
That would be great. Yeah.
I will eat a shoe if I'm wrong on that one. That's how confident I am.
Okay, because I'm a lot less confident that it's Jack Baker, but it's a certain possibility. Use all the RE-verse voice clips.
Yes.
Give him the big scissor thing.
You're opening the biggest one. The Duke has to be
in the carriage and everything.
He literally has everything available to him. He has to be. He just throws fish at people. Yeah.
Yeah, the amount of one-liners alone of just picturing Jack walking around the village going, "Where's my little Ethan?" Completely unaware that he's dead.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to where we started. Is like that's a cool callback to RE7 and Jack Baker. Everyone loves Jack. It would be cool to see him in Village as like a goofy, in the same way that like Hunk has nothing to do with RE4, but he's in Mercenaries, and it's like because people love Hunk. It's like so that was the logic there. I think you're right. I think Rose has probably got the best shot. Point is, I think hopefully there's another character that we don't know about.
Hunk, if he appears in this DLC, is going to be a tantamount brilliant smash. Hunk's fate is fine.
Oh yeah,
Hunk's fate is fine, especially in minigames. Like the man just is allowed to show up.
Yeah.
Like there's a party somewhere downtown. Hunk always knows where it is. Like that's fine.
I just had a terrible thought. But it's hilarious. What if they don't bring Hunk in?
Then it's a walk around.
But it's the Duke in a reskin called Chunk.
Is he going to have a costume? Not that it matters because it's first person, where he doesn't have he's got like no tiny little pants on. They call him Lady Chunk. I hate Lady Chunk so much. I just had to get that.
Lady Chunk.
I mean, they've established that these characters have special quirks to them. Chris is obviously the thump of destiny.
Yes.
And Heisenberg is check out my Thor hammer. Lady D is / summon daughters, drink wine.
Chairs.
Throw dressers at people and stuff. That's fantastic.
Could be a favourite of wrestlers, that one.
I have to ask, what would Duke's special moves be?
Again, throwing fish.
I think it's fish, yeah.
Fish.
Just throwing,
Sure, that's Moreau's move, right? Moreau shows just bleh and fish.
Now that would be a crazy character.
One of the fish has Moreau's face on it. Every time you throw it, I'm the best.
Yes. No, I'm
on board. Yeah. Sold.
I mean, RE-verse has already spoiled what Jack could do, right? He's Chainsaw Scissor Man running around going.
Just put that in first person. Done.
Yeah. I mean, Rose has got unique skills.
Exactly.
Sorry,
no. No, you're totally right though. Like we've already know that she's got some kind of abilities to do with enemies, and what she can do to them.
She can freeze them, right?
Yeah, she can freeze enemies. So.
I hope those enemies make it in actually to Mercenaries.
That would be cool as well. Yeah. Some new enemies. There's already been implication of new maps. I think in some of the trailers it looked like. So some new enemies would be nice as well. But yeah, that's my prediction. Is James, what is your bold prediction for the Winter's expansion?
Right. This DLC is not going to give us any future lore. I know we've discussed this. It's going to tie in with something we said earlier. It's only going to give us near future lore, so it will give us the lore of the surrounding area, like where they are, what Rose has been up to, maybe a little bit, but not much. It will confirm theories about the Duke being another Lord. It will give us more information on the relationship between Miranda and Spencer, I think.
Possibly, I could see that.
Hope.
Yeah.
Like what I want to see, because this is when I was writing this, I was like, I really want to see Rose walk into a vision or something of them meeting.
Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah, that's a cool one. That's a
And,
cool
like-
memory to like. It's in the Mega My seat, so why not?
Yeah, and like it would be cool if there would be like a little like montage of basically her stepping through a door, and then there'd be another one, like, and then that goes through another door, and there'd be like they're in Antarctica this time, and what they've talked about. It'd just be nice because there's so much information in that. Definitely not David's lab from Alien Covenant's lab. That like it would be, again, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about when it comes to, if you don't focus on that, it'd be a real detriment to the work they put in. Like, it would be so cool. So I'd like some more lore in those early days. I think everybody wants that a little bit. I know there's a lot of naysayers out there and stuff, but yeah, concrete. But yeah, to end it, concrete lore from 2037 will be, as we mentioned earlier, will be really hard to sew up for future titles that we're going to get, unless it's like really surface level stuff. Throwaway, like small throwaway lines that have no real consequence other than the Winters family.
I mean, Spencer stuff's fine, right? That predates the entire franchise.
Exactly, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, but if we're talking about lore that's happened between 2021 and 2037, right? It's gonna be a bit weird, right? It would be cool if there were a bunch of, I just thought of this. It'd be really cool if we got a little look at the creative boardroom in Capcom, where maybe we find operation notes or something that have barely any information. They're just full of redacteds. There's like barely any information.
In 2035, some kind of incident occurred, blah, 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 blah.
So there'll be,
2037. Yeah.
So there'd be like something that Capcom can go, see, this is what we're doing, and we want to connect you in future games if they're going to happen. If they don't happen, we'll just do what we have always done, and the fans are going to love it anyway. So it's like it has no consequence. But yeah, I do think the Duke is going to be confirmed as another Lord, and I'm hoping, but it's definitely happening because I just want it to happen. I want to manifest it.
That's it. That's what this is about. Yeah.
I want to see Miranda and Spencer.
That would be really cool. And I think that is something that really could benefit with a little bit more, because it was, and to use the term that you put, that was quite surface level as well. It was like they met, they had a chat, they got on, they kind of went their separate ways and did their own thing. I'd love to know why. There's plenty of fan theories about how, why they grew apart, why Spencer wouldn't kind of look beyond his viral agent and be like, hey, there's this weird blob over there that makes people immortal. Maybe I should just use that. Maybe Miranda denied Spencer out of it, and I'd love to get some more information on that for sure. Yeah, definitely. That'd be awesome. I also think, to be fair, this DLC is definitely going to have RE9 related teasers in it.
Yeah.
For what's to come. But yeah, some stuff that goes further back, fill out that past would be really great.
Yeah.
I don't want them. I know we've already gone past what we don't want, but I don't want them to do. I know we really like the DLCs for Resident Evil 7 were kind of lauded because, well, they were really fun, right?
Yeah.
But they also didn't really lead anywhere. Really.
No. There was a couple bits that were like, oh, this is cool because the Bakers before they were infected and stuff like that, but it was very minor. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the kind of stuff we want to see, right? We want to see that. We want to see that in the DLC, but like there was other stuff that didn't really lead anywhere. Like the thing with Zoe, for instance. Like it's a cool DLC, but
it introduced us to the character who should be in Mercenaries. Now that you think about it,
I'm sorry, but I don't like it.
You don't want to powerbomb Jack Baker through a boat?
The thing is, it's super fun to play, and it's like great to play. It's just like in terms of a lore stance, like for a game that already had like a lot of detail in it already, they decided to add like power gloves and then gave no explanation. Like it was just, here's some power gloves, have fun. you know,
Yeah.
if they want to do that,
Falcon.
if they want to do that with Village and they want to add more DLC, that's fine. But I think this first DLC needs to be, I mean, they've already confirmed it's going to be a tie-up, right?
Yeah.
But like, it needs to be a more of a story-driven DLC rather than just to, you know, have fun.
I agree. Steve, thoughts?
I kind of really hope we get some like multiple choice options. I want a bad ending. I want a good ending. I want to be able to fully get some replayability out of it. It's like Capcom's good for replayability anyway. Like we know that unlockables and stuff. I really want them to go give it so you can give this a bad ending because we haven't had that in a Resi game for freaking ages. I want to have like, you know,
Revelations 2 is kind of yeah, you know.
The bad ending in that, right? She's stuck on an island by herself and everyone's dead. So she ain't going nowhere. Not for a bit. Not for a hot minute.
Still a bad
ending. The good ending, she's taking time bomb in Barry's house. Like, you know.
Oh, okay,
so
yeah, point.
It's I want something a bit more like, yes, Evelyn has taken over Rosa's mind and walks off into the darkness. I mean, obviously, that far in the future, anything can happen. It might be canon, it might not be canon.
We'll find out when we get there.
Again, this is me assuming that this is basically going to be a retread of Little Miss from Revelations 2, funny enough. If it's not, I want a bad ending, Capcom. I really do. I want disappointment and sadness. It's already bad enough that Ethan's died. So make it even more miserable, please.
I mean, give us the choice of it being miserable. I was just thought something as well. Like, we don't know much about this Megamycete organism.
Well, you see, in America it was called the Genesis Mycete, but we had to change it because of legal. Sorry, that's a very nerdy joke. I'm sorry.
Oh, wow. it just clocked.
I mean, in some places it's called the Super Mycete.
Anyway, before we start console war,
Xbox Mycete 360 and the PlayStation Mycete respectively.
How do I turn his video off? How do we?
I was just thinking. So we know the Megamycete can look into the memories of people that it has absorbed.
Theoretically, yeah.
But well, we know that it can.
I mean. Yeah, the reason I say theoretically is because Miranda spends like the entirety of Village trying to reconstitute her daughter, and still gets the wrong girl at the end.
But maybe after all this time, it's evolved to maybe absorb the memories of the future, what is to come as well.
Interesting.
Like, it's again pseudoscience,
yeah,
right? And I don't know how they're going to connect it, but it might like help with some of this future stuff. A little bit, maybe. I don't think they need to think that hard, but it's just something to put forward.
You mean turn it into like an oracle, like it can see what happens, or you mean like to try and fill in the players between what's happened between?
Yeah. It can. I don't know. It might. I mean, it might make its own. Maybe it makes its own things up, like they did in RE6. Like it makes its own memories up of what it presumes to happen or assumes to happen. Right? It doesn't mean that there is a physical thing like it is in RE6, like with the clones, right? But it could like be something that, you know. Man, it's made me think again now. Do we think? Do we know? Because I can't remember. Because James is both ill and it's a long time, but. Do we know that the end of Resident Evil Village was in the future? You know, the cutscene?
Well, it's been established since that the rose of that ending epilogue is of around 2037, 36. At least that's when the DLC takes place.
Yeah, unless she logically like ages to that age and then stays that age for a very long time. Okay. I mean, they never actually say this is this year, so we're just assuming.
Yeah. I mean, that could be
really weird though.
It would be really weird. I'm just like, yeah. I was just thinking, you know, because they go in a little bit weird with it, and you can do a lot with an organism like the Megamycete that can twist and turn memories however it wants.
Yeah.
Or not really however it wants, but however the organism that is within the memory, right, that it's creating wants.
As insane as it sounds, James, if old lady Rose opens this up like it's Titanic, she's actually like 40, 50, 60 years old, and then goes into her mindscape as a much younger self, I'm all for it. Like, if we can establish that Chris is fine in 2021, but he might not be in 37.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit. We might be stretching the bounds of possibility, but I'm all for it if it happens.
Yeah.
Again, I might be thinking too deep, but
That's what this is about, man.
To your point, Steve, in terms of multiple endings and bad endings, I don't see why not. Really, I don't think, for several reasons. Obviously, the fact that it's taken place so far into the future, and the fact that whilst eventually Resident Evil is going to get to that point and go beyond. We'll
have a reboot back in Raccoon City every decade. It's fine.
This is true. But I don't think that anything necessary. I expect this is probably the. I don't know. I was going to say the end of Rose, so they can kind of end it with these multiple, and you pick your whatever ending you think actually happens. But I don't know. You don't know that for sure. If she proves popular.
I mean, a bad ending doesn't necessarily mean end of the world for anybody. It
No,
obviously
of
means she
course.
chips a nail. Just stumbles out of the mindset and goes, that's a bit weird, wasn't it? Didn't get no closure on Daddy, but. Whereas the good ending is, hey, I'm fine.
I think a bad ending. It would be either a good or bad ending, but a bad ending in a way would be her witnessing all the memories of the people she's loved dying.
The best bad ending is what Sai wanted. Best bad ending is what Sai wanted in an earlier video we did, where he talked about the potential of an evil Rose versus a good Sherry.
Yeah.
That'd be great. No, I like that.
Superpowers in the Resident Evil universe do not belong, but if they have to.
But there can only be one.
Highlander starts playing. Oh, what?
Okay, so to close this out then, the traditional question is, where's your hype level at for Winter's expansion? Steve, how are you feeling about it? Are you excited?
Yeah, actually, this talk as well has actually elevated it quite a lot. I'm gonna be honest. When I came into this, I was a bit like, yeah, it's gonna be fun, but now I'm like, oh, I'm actually looking forward to it.
Good. I'm glad. James, how are you feeling about the DLC?
I know this sounds strange because I was the most hype about Village after playing it, and I was the one that played it the most and everything. But I am trying to hamper my expectations a little bit, even though this video is not a good representation of that.
Is in fact going to bring back Jill.
This is me right now at 1. Okay, so imagine what I'll be like at 10. I'm trying to keep it back because
you never know what it's going to be.
Because I just have it's a DLC. It's a Capcom DLC, and we just covered recently, not to date the video, but we just covered recently the DLCs for Resident Evil 4, one of the most successful games in Capcom's history. And those DLCs are really fun, but don't really add anything again. And
I would argue Separate Ways does, but that's a.
But it doesn't
listen to the podcast on that one,
right? Yeah, but what I mean by that is it doesn't give you anything extra that's substantial. The
outcome's still the same, mate. It gets away with the sample,
right? Or there isn't any kind of post-credit stuff that is actually substantial, other than hearing Wesker. But without sounding like I'm. But yeah, and it's the same with the remakes as well. We didn't get any DLC. Remake 3 and Remake 2 was the same.
Just like a gameplay thing.
Yeah,
so it was literally billed as, here are some theoretical situations that don't happen. So
yeah, exactly. Even though the thing that's making me go, oh, maybe this is the time, is that they tied in RE7 and RE Village, right? So that's the thing that's made me go, oh, maybe we'll get it. But at the same time, I'm going, it may just be a 4-hour romp, without much substance in.
I mean, to rate it against its peers, right? The small expansions for Revelations 2 were okay, but they weren't anything groundbreaking. Certainly not 4-hour-long expansions. And this is a hefty pace, probably. RE7s, I think when you bundle it all together, is twice the length of the main game if you try and speedrun all of the DLC for it. I think this is going to be on par, maybe, with both of RE5s put together in terms of length. Because Desperate Escape and Lost in Nightmares together are about a 4-hour experience, whereas on their own, not, obviously. So I think there's a precedent for it to be decent. Not great. I'm kind of alarmed, actually. This is the first DLC I've ever seen with a pre-order bonus.
Oh, is it? I never realized that.
A costume. It's not much, but it.
Yeah, I know, but
something.
It's still something.
Yeah.
Bit weird.
I didn't. Yeah, I completely forgot about RE5. Actually, RE5 is good at DLC.
We should probably wrap this up because Steve has disappeared into the void. So yes, this has been the first episode of the wish list. Resident Evil Village DLC. It's funny. We talked a lot about Shadows of Rose, but there's quite a lot to get his teeth sunk into. So I'm really quite looking forward to it. Let us know how you're feeling about it down in the comments below. What you will expect out of the DLC, what you'd like to see, what you wouldn't like to see. It will be here very, very soon indeed. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, and all that good stuff for more Resident Evil content. Thank you for joining us, and have a good week.